Shocker! Imagine my surprise. Just imagine my surprise when Uncle Casey found out that the WNBA is struggling to maintain their ratings without Caitlin Clark.
And that problem is Caitlin Clark not playing in WNBA games. Now, what all does this affect? The ratings are plummeting. Guys, there's ratings for a couple of these games that are eye-poppingly bad. We're talking about down in unrivaled territory.
It began like a slow leak in a ship everyone thought was unsinkable. One moment, the WNBA was riding a wave of historic growth headlines raving about record-breaking ratings, sold-out arenas, and the electric energy of Caitlin Clark's rookie season. Then, in the blink of an eye, one groin injury changed everything. The momentum didn't just dip, it collapsed. Ratings didn't decline, they fell off a cliff. Networks that had just celebrated 3.1 million viewers for Fever games were now looking at numbers barely reaching half that. The league's brightest light was gone, and with her absence came a darkness they weren't prepared for. The fallout wasn't gradual, it was instant. Each game without Clark became a case study in audience evaporation. Matchups that once pulled in millions struggled to break 1.3 million. This wasn't a routine slump, it was an exposed nerve. Every day she stayed sidelined. The story of historic growth unraveled a little more, exposing a hard truth. The WNBA wasn't built to thrive without its biggest star. This wasn't just about basketball, it was about survival. Networks, advertisers, and casual fans were all watching and quietly walking away. The speed of the decline shocked even seasoned analysts. Just weeks earlier, Clark's games had been cultural events, dominating social media, flooding sports bars, sparking national conversation. Suddenly, those same venues were tuned into baseball, NFL preseason, or anything else that could hold attention. The WNBA hadn't just been selling a sport, it had been selling the Caitlin Clark experience. Without her, the product lost its identity. The concern wasn't simply about current ratings. It was about whether they would ever fully recover. The numbers told the story. The Fever's primetime slot, once the crown jewel of the season, had become the league's biggest embarrassment. Even rivalries that were carefully promoted and packaged for maximum drama fell flat in her absence. What was meant to be a blockbuster summer had turned into a cautionary tale. In sports, stars drive business. But when one player is holding up an entire league, that business is walking a razor's edge. The WNBA was learning that the hard way, and this wasn't just a rough patch, it was a warning shot aimed at the league's long-term future. Every day Clark remained on the sidelines. The momentum that had taken years to build slipped further away. The league's value to networks and sponsors quietly eroded with each passing game. If they didn't find a way to stop the bleeding, they weren't just at risk of a down year. They were staring at a credibility crisis, a threat to their growth, possibly even a challenge to their place in the broader sports market. The heart of the WNBA's marketing plan had been deceptively simple. Caitlin Clark versus Angel Reese. It was a tailor-made rivalry, fierce, competitive, and soaked in backstory. It worked. The numbers soared every time those two met on the court. Their matchups brought casual fans into the fold and turned games into headline events. But with both players injured, the magic vanished. Without those head-to-head battles, there was no hook left to keep audiences tuned in, no spectacle to fuel the drama. When Clark and Reese were active, their games weren't just about the scoreboard. They were about the moment. Every possession felt like history. Every foul call, every stare down, every dagger three-pointer added to a growing legend. But the WNBA built its 2024 season like a film that depended entirely on its two lead actors and then lost both. The remaining cast couldn't carry the weight. No matter how talented the other players were, the spotlight wasn't theirs. The fans hadn't bought tickets to see the understudies. They were there for the headliners. Even the networks had banked everything on that rivalry. Primetime slots on CBS, nationally televised weekend showcases, and tightly coordinated promotional campaigns were all built around Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese. Without them, those investments lost their value. The must-watch narrative crumbled overnight, leaving behind just another set of regular season games between middle-of-the-pack teams. And while the hardcore fans still tuned in, the casual viewers, the ones who had inflated those record-breaking numbers, simply moved on. The issue wasn't that the remaining players lacked talent or marketability. It was that they were never given the stage. The spotlight had been locked onto two stars all season long. When they disappeared, the lights didn't shift. They just shut off. It wasn't just absence. It was a vacuum. The kind that pulls everything into it, leaving only echoes of hype that used to be. The league had set itself up for this collapse, and now it was facing the consequences in real time. What made it worse was the timing. The injuries hit at the most pivotal stretch of the season, the lead up to the playoffs, when ratings traditionally matter most. Instead of surging toward a high-stakes postseason climax, viewership was plummeting. Instead of strengthening its case in upcoming TV rights negotiations, the league was now exposing its biggest vulnerability: dependence on a single narrative in the unforgiving world of sports media. Vulnerability is a red flag. Networks and advertisers can sense it immediately. And what they were seeing wasn't a stumble, it was a freefall. May 22nd matchup that drew over 3 million. Viewers had collapsed to just over 1.3 million by August 10th. That's a loss of more than 1.4 million people vanished in less than 3 months. This wasn't a slump or a ratings dip. This was a death spiral. For advertisers, the fallout was brutal. Sponsorship deals are built on eyeballs, and every lost viewer slashed the value of those ad spots. For networks, the panic ran deeper. Primetime sports programming doesn't come cheap. If the WNBA couldn't guarantee a return on that investment, without Clark, how could any executive justify locking in premium slots for future seasons? Each low-rated broadcast sent another crack through the league's media foundation. The Fever felt the blow immediately. Without Clark, their national relevance disappeared. What had been appointment viewing became background noise. Fans stopped rearranging their schedules for games. While local Indiana fans still showed up, the broader national audience that had once followed her every move had vanished. The damage didn't stop there. Other games, even ones without the Fever, were dragged down. Matchups on NBA TV that were expected to draw 250,000 to 300,000 viewers were struggling to break. 200,000? Some sank as low as 60,000. These weren't throwaway preseason exhibitions. They were regular season games in a league that had spent months promoting its unprecedented growth. But without Clark, that growth looked like a carefully staged illusion, one injury away from collapse. Inside the WNBA's media strategy, chaos was setting in. Updates on Clark's injury began to feel less like medical reports and more like PR maneuvers. One week she was day-to-day, the next out indefinitely. At one point, ESPN circled August 12th as her potential return date. Then ours. Before the game, Coach Stephanie White admitted Clark hadn't even practiced. Fans felt manipulated, as if the league was using the idea of her return as bait to keep ratings afloat. It was a short-term tactic with long-term consequences. Whispers began circulating that the Fever were being nudged behind the scenes to keep Clark's name in the headlines, regardless of her actual health status. The message was clear. The league needed her, even if she wasn't ready. The desperation was no longer subtle. It was visible in the scheduling decisions, the vague injury reports, the increasingly hollow hype cycles. And at the heart of it all was a truth too uncomfortable for the league to publicly admit without Caitlin Clark. The WNBA didn't just lose a player, it lost its anchor.